Now, before I begin talking about my feelings about season 3, I want to preface it by saying that by no means was the season bad in my opinion. In fact, I actually really enjoyed it. I think it came in really strong with some great moments that I felt really pushed the story forward, especially with the characters. And any and all my issues with it are quite minor and generally did not take away from my enjoyment of Atlanta as a whole. Though the third installment was noticeably different in its approach from what I remember it to be. Again, not in a bad way, but strikingly noticeable from prior seasons. I could entertain the idea that it's because it's been roughly 4 years since season 2, or I might have outgrown the show, but as I said before, I did enjoy it and found myself looking forward to each episode, so that is very unlikely. Anyways, after gathering my thoughts on everything that it was, I was still left wondering what exactly I watched, so I took it upon myself to go back and refresh to where it all began, all the way back when Earn was a homeless yet resourceful manager, Paperboy was an up-and-coming artist with celebrity dilemma, and Darius was a lingering, mysterious, yet esoteric entity who occasionally dropped the odd pearl. As I was watching, with all things considered, I got the impression that Atlanta was bound to head in the direction of where season 3 went. The first season was more like an experiment, Robin's season was more conceptual than the one before it, and the third being exactly what we received. And arguably, the latter may have been the show Donald envisioned from the very beginning, but I digress. Earn in both season 1 and 2 for the most part felt like the main character, while at the same time the heart of the show's humor. It was the situational absurdity that carried those seasons, at least in my opinion. The series followed him, and I don't think we got much of that in season 3. Perhaps it's because Earn is finally at the place he's always wanted to be, manager-wise, and he's simply not willing to risk jeopardizing what he's building towards. And not only that, season 3 was a time skip, so we are introduced to a much more experienced Earn. It's good because seeing his growth from the troubles he once faced, they pale in comparison to the inconveniences he goes through now. And from a narrative point of view, I think it would only be fair to cast the spotlight onto something else or someone else, which leads me into my next point, kinda. In hindsight, I thought that Alfred was given more time to shine as a character this time around. To my surprise, a theme and plotline that was relatively prevalent within all 3 seasons was the emphasis on the identity of Alfred. There were a handful of moments where he was forced to make the decision in what persona he was to conform to based on the situation, and this is sprinkled all throughout the first season, the Woods from season 2 being a great example of that. Similarly to New Jazz, narratively speaking, these character beats force Alfred to not only examine his life, but to unveil the insecurities of Paperboy. Season 1, Alfred enjoyed the perks of being famous, but dreaded the misconceptions people had of him because he was a rapper. But I do strongly think it's been that exact dilemma that has kept him from being completely honest with himself. The idea of leaving the rapper's mold may pose such a threat, and that could be his biggest challenge yet. And so as we wait for season 4, that may be the resolution to his character in the end. Now, I'm 100% sure I'm not alone when I say this, but the whole anthology approach was the last thing I was expecting, if not at all. We got anthology-esque episodes in the past, but the main thing was the characters were very much involved in those stories, even if they were featured into a lesser degree. But according to Atlanta's executive producer, Stefani Robinson, she stated the decision felt like the natural progression of what we wanted to try creatively. Donald has done such a good job of making us feel like the show can be really whatever we want it to be, and he referred to it a couple times as a playground, or at least this is how it feels. You don't have to be shackled to this idea of making a more traditional sitcom or comedy structure. This is something very different. To be fair, I'm not particularly surprised this was the reason. After all, Donald did Trojan horse Atlanta to FX, so if this was the direction the show was heading in, ultimately it was inevitable. And you know, as I'm writing this script and looking it over, I'm starting to think my personal issue is that the show greatly deterred from any and all familiarity, again, which is not a bad thing. But it did feel like the Atlanta writers were too occupied with trying to make a point while in the same breath juggle pre-existing storylines, which at first threw me for a loop but offered perspectives I haven't seen in any other medium. So it wasn't all in vain, just confusing at first. And I have no strong aversion to social commentary, and if done right, I consider it to be a power move if you have the platform. And I think Donald, Steven, and the rest of the Atlanta staff just made the most out of the opportunity that was in front of them. But anyways, that's really all the things I wanted to say in regards to season 3 of Atlanta. The gang will be back home, so maybe things will go back to normal, if that's the right word. Let's just wait and see. Anyways, that's all for this video. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.